Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Let's see.
Who's that good-looking guy there?
Welcome to the Perfection Paradox book launch party. We're coming to you live from Phoenix, Arizona. My name is Emerson Ward, and I have the great honor of serving as the host for today. We're going to go over a few housekeeping items. We've got a few folks trickling in here still, and want to get a few things out of the way just for clerical purposes. So for those of you online, you found us. You're in the right spot. Make sure that you don't lose us. Click follow or like, or both. And that way, if we get disconnected, you can find us easily. Our Facebook moderator has shared some links. We'd love for you to please share those so that everybody else can join us. We're broadcasting, like I said, from Phoenix, Arizona. I apologize in advance for looking down at my notes. We've got a detailed agenda that keeps us on track. And I've also got a few questions, both for our author, Jeffrey A. Kramer, and some special guests. So I'll be glancing down at my notes here throughout the afternoon. With that said, I'm going to give a few minutes to those online and those in the audience as well to please do that. If you can grab your phones, or if you're on your computer, please do share these links so that we can boost our numbers here. So I'm going to give a few seconds. Okay. And now, and I say now, making sure we're ready. The Perfection Paradox.
Perfection. It sounds appealing. After all, what's better than perfect? Or so we think. The truth is, perfection is a powerful drug, addictive, debilitating, paralyzing. Do you feel like nothing you do is ever good enough? Is procrastination your friend? Are you hiding behind a mask of perfectionism so you won't be found out? Has analysis paralysis prevented you from taking action? Author Jeffrey A. Kramer was paralyzed by perfection, but discovered how to be freed by his flaws. In the Perfection Paradox, he shows you a way to escape as well. Accept your addiction. Overcome your obstacles. Escape to excellence. The Perfection Paradox by Jeffrey A. Kramer. Available wherever books are sold.
Well, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our author, Jeffrey A. Kramer of the Perfection Paradox.
Thank you all.
All right,
How are you?
I'm good. We are right on time.
I know.
It's only been 6 minutes.
5 minutes in, 6
Yeah.
minutes in, and we're on agenda. I love
And
it.
now we're off by 30 seconds.
Sorry.
Because of that.
Well, I am imperfect.
Yeah. That's right, and that's what we're here to talk about, perfectionism. We have people coming to us, to us virtually from all over. We have your friends, your readers, colleagues, a mixture of all those three. I'm curious if you're coming to us online, if you can type in the comment section where you're joining us from. That would be great. We'd love to see that. Jeff, I know many of the people here and then those that have tuned in, just like me, are just really excited to learn more about the Perfection Paradox. And I'm wondering if you'd like to say anything just as we open up today to everybody.
I think the first thing I'd like to say is if my perfectionism irritated you, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And you'll find that in one of the 7 steps in the appendices is make sure you apologize to those of you. But no, I think, the writing the book was really cathartic. It was necessary for me. A lot of self-revelation in the process, and so I just really enjoyed it. I'm glad it's done, finally. If you can imagine a perfectionist writing a book about perfectionism. Yeah, that was a barrel of fun. So I'd just like to say thank you to everybody who's here with us live in Phoenix, and all of you online watching. I know we've got folks from the UK, from Australia, from Luxembourg, from Romania. So we've got a lot of folks from all over the world who said that they were going to tune in. So if you're here, howdy.
Awesome. And I could totally explain to everybody what a book launch party is, but why don't you do that for us? You probably do a little bit better than me.
Yeah, so the whole point is just to celebrate that the book is finished and released. You know, there are lots of different types of book launch parties. I think this one is just to have some fun. I told Emerson when we were planning this, I said, here's this detailed agenda, and let's don't follow it too tightly.
That you revised 4 times.
Yes, let's just have some fun.
Yeah. But don't follow it.
4?
Yeah, that's it.
I thought it was 3.
That's it.
So, but so the whole purpose is just to celebrate that the book is out, have some fun with everybody who has supported me along the way. I think, you know, I'm looking in the room here. I see a couple of my beta readers here that helped make it better, which I truly appreciate, because the first draft was not good. So beta readers and editors were a huge help, and I know I've got a couple of my endorsers who are watching online, and we're hoping Phil is going to join us virtually in a little while, who wrote the foreword for the book. And so it's just a chance to celebrate and have a good time, and then we're going to have some giveaways. So anyone who purchases the book, either here at the event or online, and if you purchase online, you can shoot us a copy of your receipt to support@jeffreyakramer.com. We'll get that, and we'll enter you into a drawing. We're going to draw for some prizes on Tuesday. We're waiting for Tuesday because Tuesday morning they announced the finalists for the Global Author Elite Awards.
That's right.
And my book was nominated in the self-help category. So we'll see if we're named as one of the 10 finalists or not. I've read a few of the other books in my category. They're pretty good.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty good. So we'll see what happens there. But so we're going to be giving away a few prizes, though. We'll give away one of them will be just some autographed copies of the book. We've got a couple of other books we're going to throw into some of the packages. The Perfectly Unhackable pack will include a copy of the book Unhackable by Carrie Overbrunner. Carrie's my coach, and he's certified me on his material in Unhackable. It's incredible stuff. So we'll give that away. We've got a habit pack. So one of the things I talk about in the book is creating new habits that serve you instead of hinder you. And so a couple of the tools that I use for my new habits, I'm going to give away copies of those tools, the Thinker's Notebook and the Evo Planner. And then the grand prize is going to include all of those, plus we're going to give away a free copy of the audiobook when it comes out, and a free enrollment in the Escape to Excellence online course when it comes out. And those are both in production right now, being created. So this fall, those will come out.
Awesome. Well, hopefully everybody understands now what a book launch party looks like and feels like. It's really neat that you were able to incorporate some of those prizes and opportunities for growth, which was really what your book is all about. It's about personal growth for you, and hopefully, you know, growth for a lot of other people that enjoy it.
Yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit about perfectionism. So I shared with you, I really enjoyed your book. It's the first book I've read where I personally knew the author. And so it was like Jeff was literally reading it to me. I mean, the words are jumping off the page, but I'm hearing Jeff's voice instead of Tom Hanks or somebody like that reading to me, which was just kind of a surreal thing.
I was kind of hoping for Sean Connery.
Right, yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. That's good too. The next book I read, I'm looking at. I would dare to venture that not many of us have taken this challenge. Maybe some folks watching online have dared to author a book. And so certainly I have not. That requires so much vulnerability to share your personal stories and your experiences, and as well as your research that you've done to try to figure out and kind of unpack. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey writing the book and the path you've taken to overcome what you call your addiction to perfectionism?
Sure. Well, the book took me 28 months to write. I have a couple of author friends who had their books from outline to published in less than 6 months. So, like I said, a perfectionist writing a book on perfectionism. What can I say? But of course, one of the things that I talk about is not comparing. So everyone's journey is different.
Right.
Their journey was a 6-month journey. Mine was 28. It was a very revealing process. I spent a lot of time reflecting back on childhood and early adulthood and memories that I had, and kind of looking at them in a new way and thinking about why things happened the way they did, why behaviors were the way they were for me, and did a lot of research on perfectionism as a result of it. And I think a little bit later we'll get into some of the specifics on some of those things related to the book and some of that process. But I really went into this kind of thinking, I just need to kind of get out of my own head so I can go do the other things I want to do that I never get done. I talk about in the book, if you look at my house and my yard and my hard drive, and all of the unfinished stuff, right? Because perfectionists are not good finishers because it's never good enough.
That's my new excuse for not finishing. So yeah,
You're welcome.
I'm a perfectionist now.
Okay.
Yeah,
You told me you
I
weren't.
identify as a self.
You told me you weren't a perfectionist.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm not buying it.
I know.
So yeah, so I really had to start looking at why was that? Why did I have all those things that I couldn't get done? And then I was mad at myself for not getting them done. And so I did a lot of research, and it was very revealing, because you think perfection is good, and it can be. Perfection can be good,
Right.
but it can also be really bad. And there were a lot of things I discovered, and a lot of it was through psychological resources, right? Like Psychology Today, American Psychological Association, and it does come out that perfectionism is an addiction,
Right.
right? And there's no 12-step program. There's no, you can't go to a facility that says stay with us for a month and we'll cure you of your perfectionism, because it's not that type of addiction, but it has the same effects. And it's quite debilitating, really. The side effects of perfectionism, when you look at the different types of perfectionism, right? Depression, anxiety, eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia, because people want to have that perfect body. So they get into eating disorders to try to get that perfect body. You hear about people who've had 20, 30 plastic surgeries, completely changing the way they look, because they think they'll have that perfect figure, that perfect appearance. And so they continue to try to artificially create it. And in particular, students, college students, especially in advanced degree programs, have a very high percentage of depression and anxiety and even suicide caused by the need to do perfect work. And in school systems, and please don't take this wrong, I love formal education. I support Folds of Honor. Everything we do, we donate to Folds of Honor. And that's an organization that provides scholarships for college educations to the spouses and children of disabled and killed service members. And so I love education, but our education system thrives on perfection. You get a perfect score, you're at the top of the class, you're the valedictorian, you're celebrated.
And a lot of times parents are praising that, right? My daughter got a 10 out of 10. I'm going to brag about her. On a spelling test. She's 7 years old, and she was so excited to call me and tell me that. And what did I do? I encouraged that and, overly praised her, which of course I was proud of her. But you're so right about that, we are all kind of striving at every age.
Yeah, and we do that in so many ways. And that's what we refer to as other-oriented perfectionism, right? So we let the demands and the desires of others cause us to be perfectionists.
Right.
And a lot of times that's parents, it can be teachers, it can be coaches. Think about the Olympics just ended. How many watched the Olympics, right? So the Olympic Games, if you're a swimmer, you win because you go the fastest.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're a sprinter in track, if you're on a basketball team that scores the most points. What if you're a gymnast?
Oh yeah.
What if you're a gymnast doing your floor routine and the only way you can win is to be judged by other people on the perfection of your performance?
And their opinion of that perfection.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And so here are all these athletes who are at the mercy of somebody who's judging their perfection in
Right.
their appearance, their athletic ability, their gracefulness, right? And then they can't get a perfect score.
Oh yeah. You're stealing my thunder because I talk about that at the end.
Okay, well you can
Okay,
repeat it.
yeah.
There'll be people who weren't here at the beginning.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
That's great. I really appreciate your, diving in about your journey and a lot of the questions that I ask you today. You're going to get more opportunity to dive in. You mentioned research, the research that you did. Of course, any good perfectionist or recovering perfectionist is perfectly capable of accomplishing a lot through that research. And I really appreciated that because it came out as I was reading the book. It's very clear. And one of the other things that I really appreciate is how you craftfully incorporate both your own words and those of some folks that are pretty famous, names that folks in the crowd and online will recognize, that I'll call inspirational quotes or daily motivators. And so I just kind of wrote down a few of them to share with those kind of, maybe to entice and encourage those that, hey, I'd like this book because I like that quote. You talk about imperfect action beating perfect inaction every day. You talk about perfection is the enemy of excellence. Seeking perfection prevents us from seeing excellence. Vince Lombardi once said, perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. I like that football reference to the catch. And one that was really kind of meant something to me too is, and I think it ties to a lot of things in our lives, especially social media and whatnot, keeping up with the Joneses, if you will. Your self-worth doesn't depend on the approval of others. It's called self-worth for a reason. So again, some of those are researched and a lot of those are your words. Do you have a favorite one of those kind of inspirational quotes or daily motivators that kind of was an aha moment or something you think about often?
Well, I think the whole idea of imperfect action beating perfect inaction. By the way, that quote used to be imperfect action trumps perfect inaction, but I changed it to beats.
Nice.
Too divisive.
Yeah. You gotta win.
Okay, what can you do? So I love that one, but the one that really resonates with me is just the short and sweet, be freed by your flaws. Your flaws are so freeing, and we're so busy trying to hide them and not let anybody see them or feel them. And there's just this incredible freeing feeling of admitting your flaws.
That's, one of the things too that I really enjoyed. The way the book kind of lines out your childhood and some experiences, and later in the book you talk about how once you looked at looked back on those things that you thought were imperfect and you were really hard on yourself, you were able to kind of therapeutically look back on those things as real accomplishments, which they were in the moment. And I thought that was, I was seeing your recovery, I was seeing your all the things that you were talking about recovery-wise, I was seeing it unfold in the book, which was really neat. Talking about the Eagle Scout and some of the things that you thought you could have accomplished had you tried harder, had you put more time into it. And so that was really neat for me too. And I'm sure those that have read it also appreciated those stories. And again, looking back on them now that you've unpacked that, through this journey, which is really neat. Do we have a guest?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's let him in.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. So I'd like to, once he's in.
There he is.
There he is. All right, awesome. I have the pleasure of introducing Phil Van Hooser, starting by sharing a few of his many accomplishments. A former Fortune 500 HR professional, a certified speaking professional currently, author of 6 books. I haven't authored any books, so that's kind of impressive to me. including Leaders Ought to Know and the soon-to-be released Earning the Right to be Heard. He's the Council of Peers Award for Excellence Speaker Hall of Fame member. He's also the recipient of the prestigious Cabot Award from the National Speakers Association. And is anybody else thinking that they need to accomplish more things? Because I'm all of a sudden feeling like I haven't accomplished anything in life. So thank you, Phil, for that. Welcome to the party, Phil. I think it'd be great if you could share with us here in the audience and then those online, talk a little bit about your relationship with Jeff that spanned over the last 20 years or more, and your experiences reading the book, The Perfection Paradox, and also writing the foreword. That would be great.
Well, you gave me quite an assignment there. Emerson, thank you very much. First of all, it's great to meet you, and it's good to see my friend Jeffrey there. Jeff, you're looking good, buddy. I should have put a tie on today. I'm sorry.
No worries. How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. This is a wonderful honor to be a part of this special day for you, and I'm sure those that are present in the flesh there and those that are watching and participating virtually like I am celebrate with you. You just mentioned that I've written some books myself. I know what an accomplishment it is, but I also know what a struggle it is to get there. And so first of all, let me say to you, you mentioned in the book, in fact, that we talked, or you shared with me your initial intention to write a book some time ago. So the fact that we are where we are now deserves laudable credit. So I applaud you. You know, Jeffrey and I have known each other for several years. I honestly can't tell you how many. I probably could have done the research and gone back and checked that. But our relationship started
over 20, Phil. Over 20.
Been over 20. Our relation started as a professional relationship that sort of morphed into a personal one. You know, I'm a professional speaker and trainer. I work with groups and organizations all over the country. Have been doing that now for almost 33 years. And so I've had many opportunities to meet people during the course of presentations, before, during, after, and so on and so forth. But I can say to you that very few have the lasting effect and the relationship and ultimately the friendship that Jeff and I have shared over those number of years. And to me, I cherish that. The fact is that my role here, like so many others, I had no idea the struggle that Jeffrey experienced, even though, as he just now told us, we've known each other for many years. Isn't that interesting how you can know someone pretty well and still not know as much about them as we think we do? And so in reading the book, Jeffrey revealed as much to me as he did to the average reader, if you will. I learned a lot about the challenges, the struggles, and of course, ultimately the victory that he's experiencing. And I just think that's wonderful. As far as the foreword, it's obviously the weakest part of the book. So I want you to know, if you only have a limited amount of time, skip the foreword, go straight to the title. You're going to do great. There's no problem with that. But seriously, it was an honor to be asked. And I didn't have to be asked twice. It was an honor to be asked or maybe offered the opportunity to write the foreword. I'm sure there's others that would have quickly rose to that opportunity as well. But I'll let the foreword speak for itself. But it's just wonderful to be a part of this experience here today.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. I appreciate it. And I did enjoy the foreword. And I didn't skip it. So you're incredibly humble and accomplished. So let's just keep adding to the list of great things about Phil. Jeff, anything you want to ask Phil or
no? You know, I just want to.
Conversation-wise,
I want to thank Phil for agreeing to do the foreword. You know, I remember that conversation. We were sitting at dinner in Boise, Idaho.
That's right.
In 2013, I think. And there were Phil and his wife Susan were there with my wife Sharon and I and another person, and I told him I was going to write a book. It wasn't this book. Yeah, it was a different book on how to be successful, and I felt like too much of a phony. You know, I wasn't successful at anything. How could I write a book about how to be successful? So I pigeonholed that one, and then I was going to write a book about leadership. that one's on my hard drive. Well, there's a folder on my hard drive. But it took me until this book to get it out of the way and to be able to deal with what I needed to deal with. So I'm glad that, Phil, thank you for sticking with me from 2013 to 2021 and still being available to do the foreword.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, Phil, stick around. There might be some things that, if you can, that you want to speak up and join up and jump back into the conversation. You know, I do want to remind everybody, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but for those that have joined after, a little later, there are some opportunities for some prizes that Jeff did a really good job illustrating earlier. But you have to do a couple things to be eligible for that. One of those is to share this live stream on your Facebook profile. And then the other, it's pretty simple, order a copy of the book, right? And send your receipt into support@jeffreyacramer.com by midnight tonight. Not 12:01, maybe 12:01.
Yeah.
Okay.
We might be a little flexible.
Okay. And also, you mentioned it earlier, we've got the audiobook coming out pretty soon, which is exciting. And again, I already had that benefit because you practically read it in my head. And don't forget to sign up for a bonus live Q&A session with Jeff on September 7th.
Thank you. Yeah.
And so you can do that at www.perfectionparadoxbook.com/bonus, right?
Bonus.
Does
Yeah.
that sound right?
Bonus. Yep.
Okay. And we'll share that too on the Facebook profile. We got a question in the audience. I was not prepared for this.
I love
This is
it.
imperfect.
I love it. This is great.
Who's doing the audio?
The audiobook, I am going to read the book myself.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so right now I'm working on modifying the manuscript from reader experience to listener experience. You've got to tweak some things, the way things are said and the way some things are called out need to be a little different. And I may ad-lib a little bit in the audiobook. The thing that I'm most thrilled about in the audiobook, though, is one of the appendices talks about, and we'll talk more about September 23rd later.
Yes, we will.
But one of the
One of my
appendices
questions
is
for
a
you,
transcript of something we're going to talk about a little bit later. And I'm thrilled that I got permission from all of the involved parties to use the actual recording of that phone call in the audiobook. So the appendix in the audiobook will be a recording of that phone call from 2014 that we'll talk about a little bit later on.
Wow, that's going to be some powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Just reading about it in your book, I can't wait. Can we get Phil to do the recording of his forward?
You know what, we might ask Phil to, hey Phil, would you be willing to record your forward for me to throw into the audiobook?
I will, but the problem with being a Kentuckian, it'll be 3 times longer than the book itself. Just listen.
We'll just play that on 2-speed.
Yeah, there you go. I was thinking the same thing, or at least 1.5. Yeah, that's great. And then at the end of our program today, those of you that are in the room, you can go and get a copy of the book in the back, and Jeff's going to be kind enough to sign them for us. At the end of the event, we also have some beverages, and not to make anybody jealous online, but there's an amazing cake over there that I will have at least 2 pieces of when we're done. All right, let's just dive into, if you're ready for that?
Good.
Okay,
Sure, let's
we're
do
going
it.
to dive a little bit further into the questions that we talked about. You mentioned one of those just now.
Fire away.
All right, so it says 90 seconds, but if you go over, it's okay.
Okay.
In 90 seconds or close to that,
Yeah.
What is the perfection paradox about?
You
For our
asked
audience.
that imperfectly, so I don't know if I can answer.
Nice.
No, that's good. We're good. The perfection paradox is really my cathartic journey to healing myself of being addicted to perfectionism. So it's a book that talks about my story, but it also talks about how perfectionism affects people in general, affects not only the individual who is the perfectionist, but those who they are around, who they work for and with, family members, everyone who's impacted by that, affected by that individual. And it talks about the stages of that discovery. So how we become perfectionists, what it's like living as a perfectionist, and then what are some of the things that we can do to live with that perfectionism. And I'll tell you, it is not a cure, because perfectionism really is a personality trait.
Right.
So you're not going to cure it, but you learn how to live with it and manage it and
maybe
use
harness
it to your advantage.
Yeah, there you go. Harness it. And
Right.
that's, I recall some of those sections of the book where you talk about that. And I can tell you that just having heard you talk about your book in 90 seconds or less, I think you were right on, by the way.
Hey.
I can tell you that I got every bit of that. So, you know, that was my takeaway. It was through your journey. It was unpacking like we talked about earlier. And then it was, you know, like you said, how to harness it, and then even arm yourself to look back in those moments in time and look at them positively instead of negatively.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing, you know, just like any other addiction. I mean, I still struggle with it, but I understand it now. I acknowledge that it exists, and I know that I have the tools.
Do you have a code word, like a safe word for your family?
There's no safe
where they can say.
I think my wife's in the back of the room. I think she just tells me, cut it out, or get over it, or quit being a.
Okay, maybe that's a suggestion. I mean,
yeah,
there you go. Yeah, have a safe word for when you're being too perfect. Okay. You've talked about this, of course, a little bit already, but, you know, and you talked about the 2 previous books that you were going to write, and then you got to this one, which I think is totally perfect, because, you know, you didn't do those things.
Well, there is good perfect.
Right.
So okay.
Well, you know, it's you know, obvious after reading the book why you didn't either finish or start any of those other books, and now you can, right?
Yeah.
But why did you write this book? Kind of obvious, but
yeah, and like I said before, really it was about curing myself, or getting out of my own way, probably more than curing, right? I had so many things unfinished. I mean, so here's an example. So this leadership book that I was going to write, I've been doing presentations at conferences and speaking about this topic. It's called Leader Under Construction. I've been doing this presentation for years. In fact, I'm doing that presentation in a week and a half at the International Public Works Exposition in St. Louis. And I wanted to do an online course for it, and I actually have 14 videos recorded on my hard drive, 7 for the short course and 7 for the full course. I have the handbook or the workbook for the short course completely done, and the workbook for the full course about half done, for 4 years.
Nice.
It's been sitting on my hard drive for 4 years in that exact state, because the videos weren't good enough. The workbook was too childish. The workbook was too short.
Right.
The sound quality was off. There was always something that wasn't good enough.
That stopped you from.
Right.
Yeah.
So now I'm getting to that point where once I get done with the things related to this book, I'm going to go back and it's going to go live in whatever state it's in.
That's
right.
exciting.
I'm going to finish the work.
Right.
So really it was about being able to get to that point
Right.
of being able to accept that some things are good enough.
Right.
And like I told you for today, let's don't stick too tightly to the script. We want to have fun. It'll be.
Oh,
good
we're
enough.
way off. I mean, I don't even know where we're going. So you are doing that well.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
You talked about your dinner with Phil in 2013. You also talked about your the moment September 23rd, which we're coming up on an anniversary of that, in 2014. You talked a little bit about that call. Tell us, for those that haven't had the chance yet to read the book, tell us more about that moment in time, that kind of inflection point on your journey.
So September 23rd, 2014, Perfection Revelation Day. I was in a group coaching program with my coach, Carrie Oberrunner. Carrie's been my coach since like 2013 and still is. And so I was in a group program. I was on a call. This is back before Zoom was popular, right? So it was all conference calls, free conference call, or freeconference.com or whatever it was, I don't know. But it was where everybody calls in on the phone number and we're all on the same conference call and going through this program together. And so that night, Carrie put me in the hot seat for something. And I'm not even sure what it was. And it started out with me just saying, hey, I don't think I'm there. I'm not as far along. I'm not quite understanding this. And we got to talking. It was over 30 minutes. I mean, there's 35 people on this 2-hour call, and I had 30 minutes of it. And where it really came out, so for those who don't know me, I'm an engineer, a civil engineer. work in the public works industry. That's how Emerson and I got to know each other.
We didn't say that.
He works for a construction company that does phenomenal work.
Oh, thank you.
And so we're talking, Carrie and I are talking, and what comes out is he asked me, well, why can't you make a mistake? Why does it have to be perfect? And my answer was, if it's not perfect, someone dies. Now, you guys build buildings. If your building is not perfect, is someone gonna die?
No.
Right? And I don't build buildings. I designed roads and sewer lines and water lines. That was, at the time, that's what I did.
Right.
Buildings came later. Thank goodness, they're a lot more fun.
They are.
And that's my mind. That was my mindset at the time. If it wasn't perfect, someone was going to die. And we all know that's not true. We all know, I mean, there's a couple of other civil engineers here in the audience. There's factors of safety built in. There's people who back check your work. You're using proven formulas and equations that have been vetted over years and years and years by lots of engineers way smarter than me. I wasn't going to kill somebody if I made a mistake. Worst case, my boss was going to catch the mistake and yell at me, and I was going to fix it. But in my mind, somebody dies. That's how deeply held this I have to be perfect belief was. And so Carrie and I talked on that call about that belief, and actually brought me to tears on the call. And you'll hear it in the recording. You hear me sobbing on the call as I realized what I had done to myself by being that deeply ingrained into this belief in perfectionism. I mean, obviously it wasn't an instant, oops, I'm healed, right? But Carrie challenged me to let things go. And we had a private Facebook group for this program. He wanted me to post in the group 3 times a day. What did you let go?
Wow.
What did you not make be perfect? That was really hard. I'm not gonna lie, it was really hard.
Were you honest?
I was honest.
There you go.
I was honest, and I really looked hard for things to let go. And I'll give you an example, because we've got 2 of my daughters in the room today, and you can ask them. You can ask them out loud. You can ask them in private later. Anybody who wants to know, ask my daughters what it was like to load the dishwasher at our house.
The video and that clip was exactly what I remember.
So the girls would load the dishwasher, and then I would go back and I would reload it, because I could rearrange things more perfectly in order to get an extra plate and a couple of extra glasses in there.
And you were pretty proud of that too.
Oh, heck yeah. Man, it was like playing Tetris, but in real life.
Yeah, this is before Instagram. You would probably post one of those if you could.
I have.
Yeah. Oh, you have.
But that's what it was like, you know. And can you imagine if you? I'm not going to speak for them, but if you were one of my daughters and you were helping with the household chores by loading the dishwasher, and then your dad came through and redid it because it wasn't good enough, how excited would you be about helping with the dishes tomorrow night? And that's what I was doing to him. So that call exposed that to me, right? It didn't heal it, it didn't fix it, but it exposed it. And that's the first step, right? If you look at the subtitle of the book, the first step is accept your addiction. And that was the night that it came into my awareness to the point that I could accept it.
Wow, that's some deep stuff. I guess kind of maybe diving a little bit further into the book, and thank you for sharing that personal story. And again, I'm excited that you got permission for that transcript, that call, to be shared as part of your audiobook. That's going to be really neat. Why do you believe social media contributes to perfectionistic tendencies? And I think that everybody here, no matter what generation you're from, and me having kids that are kind of preteen, and the fears that I have of them on social media and what that can do to somebody's psyche and somebody's confidence level, for example. But let's talk a little bit about social media and that perfectionistic tendency.
Yeah. So first of all, let me say social media is not bad.
Right.
I mean,
We're on it right now.
if you're watching, thank you, because yeah, this is live on
Facebook is
Facebook and
literally
YouTube right
listening
now.
to us.
Yeah.
And they will
So,
shut us down.
Hello
if we don't plug
across
them.
the globe,
Yeah.
Facebook.
We
You're
love
okay.
Facebook.
We love
Yep.
you. Mark, don't turn us off.
Yep. He's probably watching.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think no. I'm guessing Mark's got something better to do
Yeah.
than watch
Probably not.
my live stream. But so really, here's the problem with social media. Social media is a horrible driver of comparison, and the that comparison game of I want what they want, I want to go where they went, I want to do what they did, right? And while comparison and perfectionism aren't the same, they're kindred spirits.
Right.
So a dear friend of mine, Renee Vidor, wrote a book called Measuring Up. I talk about it in the book.
Yes, you do.
Renee wrote an endorsement, and we're going to see Renee in a couple of months in Ohio at the Igniting Souls Conference. And there's this horrible side effect of what you see on social media, because you see these people who are in these beautiful exotic locations and driving these fancy cars, and they have the perfect physique and the perfect wardrobe.
Right.
And you see that, and when you're a perfectionist already, when you have those tendencies, holy crap, I want that.
Yeah.
I want to look like that. I want to go there.
Yeah.
I want to have that car.
Mm-hmm.
And it fuels that need to have the same. And one of the other things about perfectionism is you become somewhat competitive. And so it's not just, I want to go there, I want to see that, I want to do that. It's, I want to have better than that. And it just becomes a really debilitating thing, because behind the scenes of that influencer's Instagram post is, a makeup crew and a hair crew and a videographer and a photographer and the Photoshop people and the and the sponsors that provided that Lambo free of charge for the photo shoot that person will never sit in again for the rest of their life, right? But on the other side of the screen, we're looking at that and saying, hey, I want that.
Yeah.
Well, they don't even have it, but social media leads you to believe they do.
Yeah, even to take that away from the celebrity view and just in our daily lives view, a son or a daughter accomplishing something at school or in sports, or straight A's being accomplished, and somebody sharing that, it's like it's not all good.
Yeah.
There's arguments, and there's parenting moments, and there's tough moments, and there's tears behind that one accomplishment, which is great, which we want to share, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of imperfect people posting perfect photos and perfect accomplishments, which is
very true.
Yeah.
And it's really, social media is their highlight reel.
Right.
It's not their real life.
Right. And so to let's go there then, because you talk about it being good sometimes, and using those, harnessing what used to be debilitating and turning it around completely 180 and going the opposite direction, and recognizing that that's not their Lamborghini, or that child, although they did get a straight A or hit a home run or whatever it was, that they struck out 14 times before that, or that they have gotten C's on their tests or whatever it is, and just recognizing that's really cool, and celebrating your friend or whoever that celebrity is, and then also recognizing that they're not perfect, and being okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, perfect is great to be something to try to aspire to, but you can't get so fixated on it.
Right.
Right. The Lombardi quote, if we shoot for perfect, we might reach excellence.
Right.
Excellence is great.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's excellent.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's not perfect.
It's not.
Is perfect excellent? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is excellent perfect? No.
Right.
But
interesting.
Excellent you can achieve. Perfect is pretty unachievable for the most part.
Yeah. What was that Michael J. Fox quote? That he talked about that too, right?
He says, Michael J. Fox says that, excellence excellence I can achieve, but perfection is God's business.
Right. Really, really interesting too. If you can just leave it with God, leave it, not to go there, but yeah, that's pretty powerful stuff right there.
Yeah, no, it is.
So perfectionism can be good. Let's
Yep.
talk about that. What does that mean to you?
Well, when I did all the research, and perfectionism breaks down into a couple of different groupings, right? So there's the one grouping that says it's self-prescribed, self-oriented, other-oriented, and socially oriented. So we've talked about that a little bit, right? Other-oriented, parents, coaches, peers, whatever. Socially oriented is your environment, social media, the things going on around you. Self-oriented is beat yourself up. Yeah, you can't get out of your own head, right? But there's another kind of pair of classifications, and it's called adaptive perfectionism and maladaptive perfectionism. Maladaptive, obviously, no good. But adaptive perfectionism is kind of like that striving for excellence, and it shows up a lot in creatives. So I talk about in the book Adele performing a concert, and oh my gosh, was it the Grammys? I think it was the Grammys, and it was right after George Michael had passed away, and Adele is doing a tribute to George Michael, and she stops in the middle and apologizes to the crowd and says, "I'd like to restart because I really don't think that was good enough to honor him." And it wasn't because she was trying to be perfect, it was because she wanted to honor someone that she wanted to do better for that person, right? But that need to perform at that high level shows up a lot in music artists and actors and actresses. There are a lot of singers. I talk about Michael Jordan Michael Jackson in the book, that he actually cried after he performed the moonwalk for the first time on the Motown 25th anniversary because he didn't think he'd done it good enough.
Yeah.
So, there's where this great perfectionism of creating this dance move that no one had ever done. I mean, this incredible dance move, but he let it affect him in a maladaptive way,
right?
Which he was known to do, unfortunately. But I think, when you think about your Michelle Pfeiffers, who I talk about in the book, and your Adeles and your Akons, and there are a lot of Gwyneth Paltrow, and I mean, go look up performing artists and athlete perfectionists, and your Google feed will blow up on you.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Serena Williams, I sent Serena Williams a copy of the book.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, she's an avowed perfectionist. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Last question before we switch it up a little bit here, and we have a little bit of a surprise. Where do you think you're at with your, I'll call it recovery to your addiction? Where do you think you are? You said it's a daily work, right? Yeah, it is. It's a daily thing. It doesn't just go away because you say, "Ooh, I recognize I do it now, and so I want to be done with it." It's something that you deal with for life. It's an addiction. Yeah. Right? Addictions don't go away, and it's a personality trait. And I think, I talk about it in the book a fair bit, that perfectionists, people who have a perfectionism personality trait, kind of get drawn into certain professions because they're professions that value perfectionism, right? Engineers, architects, accountants, surgeons, right? So that idea that their work needs to be perfect attracts people with perfectionistic tendencies. And it doesn't just go away overnight. So the entire process of dealing with it on a daily basis is always going to be there for me. Yeah. But the fact that I recognize it and I know it and I can catch myself, and I talk about how important it is to have truth tellers in your life, those people who will call you out when you're going down that road. Right. And you need to be called out. And so I'm allowed to do that, right? Even though you are. Yeah. Technically, you're my client sometimes. Yeah, well, not anymore now that I retired. Oh, that's right. Okay, so I can call you out all the time. Yeah, you can call me out anytime you want. Awesome. Yeah. You guys all heard it, so I can do it. Wait a minute, BJ's here, right? Yeah, BJ's here, so he heard it too. If he calls me out too many times, you beat him down for me. Yeah, that's true. BJ, don't do that. Lots of deep stuff. I really appreciate you kind of diving into some of those questions and answering them so honestly. And I mean, like every part of that, your responses, I can recall passages and sections of the book, and really, I just want to encourage everybody to go out there and get the book. Go on Amazon or wherever you buy your books. Okay, so she doesn't know this is going to happen, but I want to invite Jeff's mom up here on camera.
The world awaits, Ma.
Oh, Lindy.
So Linda Ratcliffe
Yes.
is gonna join us here in a second. Jeff's gonna step out and let Linda sit here for a second.
Oh, no.
She is so happy. You can't see her face yet, but she's smiling.
Can you get up on the chair, okay?
She can. All right, so this is the wonderful woman that gave us the author, and a lot of us can call him a friend and a colleague, Jeffrey A. Kramer. So Linda,
I did not give him the perfectionist.
let's talk about that. That's actually why you're up here.
Okay.
So I have 2 questions for you, okay, and they're pretty easy. Hopefully you read the book.
I did read it.
There you go. So
I bought it.
You're halfway there.
I would have given her a free
I
copy.
bought
but She bought it so quickly.
Okay, so my first question for Jeff's mom is just what was your impression when you read your son's book?
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Tell me why.
Jeff, he's such a good kid, and he calls his mom, I think thanks to his wife, he calls his mom every week. And he calls me on Tuesdays. And my son-in-law used to say, I can see how tense you get, because Jeff's going to call. And he's going to be upset.
Oh.
He always was mad because something hadn't been done well enough. Somebody hadn't performed the way he expected them to. And I always said, I'm his mom. He can vent
Yes.
to me. It's okay.
Yeah.
But it always made me feel bad because I always thought he was unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know why.
Yeah.
Perfect isn't a word I even think should exist. So
Right.
he didn't get it from his parents.
Well, he talks about that. He actually does talk about that, as you recall in the book. He gives you guys a lot of credit for all the good things and in his personality and he doesn't know where he got it, because it wasn't something that was instilled at home that he had to be perfect. It was quite the opposite, in fact.
Yes.
And you guys let him, kind of grow and follow his own path, which is great. Do you recall when you called him after you read the book and what you said? And I can tell you if you don't remember.
I think I said something about Carrie, and I wanted to thank him for that phone
Wow.
call.
Yeah.
Or I would always be grateful to him.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't remember that part. Jeff remembers this part. You call him Sonny, right?
Sonny boy.
Sonny boy. That's right. Sonny boy, I just read your book, and I think I finally get you. Isn't that kind of neat?
It was when the fellow said he has known him for 20 years and didn't know he had this
Yeah.
addiction. I've known him for 58 years, and I didn't know he had this addiction.
Yeah.
So it was such a relief
Yeah.
to find out why he was unhappy.
Yeah.
So
And so you obviously noticed a difference in your son?
yeah.
That was a setup, Linda. Come on.
Yes,
Work
yes,
with me
yes.
here.
I do not get tense on Tuesdays anymore.
There you go. So you did something for your mom too. And I imagine your daughters and your wife and colleagues and stuff and people have noticed a difference in you too as
Oh, I'm
you've
sure.
gone on this journey. Well, Linda, is there anything else you want to say before you?
I just thank you all for supporting him, like I think I always have. And
Buy the book.
nice book.
Buy the book.
Buy the book.
I did.
That's his
How about you?
sister. That's his sister, and she never tried to be perfect.
Ma, say hi to the world.
I will.
To the world?
The world's watching on the camera.
Hi, world.
You're Facebook famous.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have to go home and watch this.
There you go.
Thanks, honey.
Well, thank you very much, Linda.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
You can't see, but Jeff's giving his mom a hug. Well, that was fun.
That was fun.
I thought you said she was going to get mad.
I might get punished later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun now. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be tense on Tuesday when you go. Well, Sonny Boy. We're getting pretty close to kind of wrapping up, and I just wanted to share
we're
a few
ahead of
things.
schedule.
We are way ahead of schedule.
We
which
got
gives-
to keep talking. Then.
Yeah. Well, can I just take a second? And this isn't about me. This is about you. This is about your book.
Take
But
the time you
I
want.
think I share with
You
you
said you
that
could talk a lot.
when BJ, do I talk a lot? Yes. So when I was reading the book, I think I shared with you that it was a Saturday. It was kind of a rare Saturday for us. I have 4 kids. We have 4 kids, my wife and I, and they always have something. And I've been meaning to pick the book up. You signed a copy for me. You gave it to me when it first was printed, and I've been meaning to pick it up. Finally pick it up, and I'm reading through it, and I just got to tell you how I kind of feel like your mom did. Like I didn't know. Like I've known you for a handful of years, and I knew that you expected greatness. I knew as a client of mine that you expected a certain degree of accuracy and professional.
Yeah, we've had a couple conversations.
Right,
Haven't we?
exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
And you still do, but not to a degree where I would have ever picked up on what was really going on in your head way back when. And then the second thought I had was, oh my God, thank goodness I don't have this problem. I was like, this must be terrible. Oh, geez, And so I'm like, then I'm like, kind of enjoying your journey, and I'd read the foreword, and beautifully done by Phil, and I'd read the chapter, so I kind of knew where the book was going. I read the chapter titles, and so I kind of knew how the book was going to end and line out how you're doing and what you found and tricks and skills to overcome being a perfectionist, and so that was my second realization. And the third realization, I heard my wife talking to, oh my gosh, I hope she's not listening to this. I heard my wife talking to one of my children, and I'm reading the book. I read a section, and then I listen to what she's saying, and then I read a section, and then I go look at my wife, and I look back down at the book, and I'm like, oh my God, she's a perfectionist. I live with one. And so that was the third realization, that I think, just like your mom and your family and your colleagues, and they knew that you expected a lot of yourself and others, but they never would have identified you. Frankly, you didn't self-identify as a perfectionist, and it took September 23rd, 2014, and a lot of work reminding yourself of that. And so that was the third realization, that we all know somebody. We all have somebody in our lives. And my wife expects a lot of the children. She's a lot like your mom, though, where she lets them try and fail and supports them no matter what. But I know that she really, what would you call it? The third section of perfectionist. The
socially prescribed.
The third one.
Individually or
yes,
personally.
Yes.
Yeah, self-prescribed.
Yeah, and so she was a gymnast, and so it's funny that you and I talked about that earlier. The Olympics were just on, and the gymnastics world. She was an elite gymnast that was kind of destined for international meets and potentially the Olympics at one point. And then she had a very successful career as a collegiate athlete, gymnast, and then was a coach. And you talked about that judging and the constant judging of your score and your routine, and it had to do with looks. It had to do with the fluidness of your routine. It wasn't just the skills, the flips and tricks and whatnot. And anyway, so I just wanted to share with you that this book helped me. I think I've known her for 20 years. We've been married for 15. And there's always these subtle quirks that I'm like, man, we're 10 minutes early. Why are you so tense right now? All those moments. And I read the book, and again, I looked up at my wife and looked back down and looked back up. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're a perfectionist. And so it has helped me connect a little bit better with her. And I think that's what, again, my third takeaway was. I think this book, you don't have to pick it up to self-evaluate yourself and fix yourself. This can help you connect better with a boss, connect better with an employee, a friend, a sibling, a spouse, anybody in your life. So I think I want to encourage everybody that's listening to this, that's watching this now or later, that this book also can be something. I don't know if you have any reaction to that, to my takeaways from the book.
No, first of all, thank you. I appreciate it. When I wrote the book for me and for my, Carrie likes to say, for your former stuck self. Weiwei, you've heard that before. My friend Weiwei's here. Her book, The Lens of Love, is also nominated for a Global Author Elite Award. So good luck. Write for your former stuck self is what he tells us to do, right? And so that's what I did. But realistically, when the book came out, I'm no Stephen King, I'm no Danielle Steele, I'm no John Maxwell, and I know I'm not going to sell 20 million copies of my first book that's, about as big as one of their chapters, right?
I haven't even shown it. What kind of a host am I? Terrible. Sorry, everybody. Here it is.
But I told myself, if just one person said to me that the book helped them, that all of that struggle was worthwhile. So
we did it. I mean, you did it. I didn't do it.
And I think I'd like to say, because you talked a little bit about you recognizing you're not a perfectionist and seeing in your wife that, maybe she does have some perfectionistic tendencies. Realistically, one, we hide it well, because we don't let anyone see our not good enough stuff.
Right.
So no one knows, right? So we're hiding all the time. We're hiding from it's not being good enough. We're afraid of failure, horribly afraid of failure, but we're equally afraid of success. Because if you fail, you weren't good enough. It's not that your work wasn't good enough. It's not that you didn't do a great job. It's personal.
Right.
I'm not good enough because I failed at whatever I did. So then I have to try harder,
right,
which then of course I fall short. So then I'm even madder because now I'm an even bigger failure.
Yeah.
And then I go into the spiral, right? But we're equally afraid of being successful because then we have to live up to it.
Right. You do it once, you have to do it again.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a scary thought too.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, I was perfect once, I'll never be perfect again. So I better not be perfect once.
Right. It stops you from even
We're
starting.
clearly dumb also.
Yeah.
So, but we also, we try to hide.
Yeah.
Right? I talk about, so I love this because it so exemplifies what I did. That if you look at my name, Jeffrey A. Kramer, and you count the letters, there are 14 letters. And then if you look at my credentials, there are 22 letters.
Humble brag.
But here's the truth. I've never used half of them for anything.
Right.
I just collected them,
right,
because they look good, and then people would think, ooh, look what he knows. He's got that credential.
Yeah.
He must be really smart or really capable,
right,
or have some expertise. I passed the test.
Right.
So they gave me the letters and I put them on display.
Right.
Why? But it was my mask.
Right.
I could be an imposter. I could be really big and important and influential because I had all those letters. They didn't even fit on my business card.
Yeah.
I had to drop some.
I
I dropped the lesser credentials because they were too long.
I literally laughed out loud when I read that part.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so
Or a two-sided card.
that.
I mean, there were options.
I couldn't.
Bigger.
Or really small print.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
small print. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy the things that we do, but
Yeah.
fear of failure, fear of success, imposter syndrome is huge for perfectionists, and then just that always looking for better.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever good enough. It's always got to be the next step better than it was, and it's just not true. There's a time where it's gonna. There's a quote in the book. I have Alexander Calder. who was an artist. He says, to an engineer,
Yeah.
nothing is ever good enough, but to an artist, there's always an end.
Right.
And it's true, you know. And not that I'll. If you're an engineer out there and you're not a perfectionist, I apologize. I'm not trying to typecast us all, but there, you know, it is fair.
Well, and there are artists. Claude Monet. You talked about Claude Monet, who was a perfectionist and
destroyed a lot of his
paintings. Yeah.
Yeah. He has paintings now that sell for millions of dollars, and he destroyed most of his work because he didn't think it was good enough.
Right. You know, talking a little bit, you kind of hit on it a little bit, but we're hiding. We, as in the proverbial we, perfectionists are hiding. And I would kind of, to take that a step further, I would say, you know, the other part of this book is they're wanting to be found. Some of them don't know it yet, but they want to be found out. They want to be helped. And that'll be hard for some to hear, hard news to hear, right? Constructive criticism wise, and maybe it could be just getting them a copy of the book, and you know, kind of passively sharing that, hey, I read this book, it might help you. And like you said, you know, I just, you know, I think my job as a construction manager, I get to mentor a lot of people, and I think one of the things about myself is that I enjoy their successes more than my own sometimes. There's no question that I love praise, and I love when somebody appreciates what I'm doing personally. But when those around me succeed, I get a little bit more excited about it and more proud about it. And I think, you know, this has got to be one of those things for you where, you know, having somebody read your work, your hard work, all your research, your personal stories that tie back to your research, and you know, I think it's going to help a lot of people, man. I think it's. Thank you. I'm proud of you. I know everybody here is proud of you. A lot of people online are proud of you too, and excited to read the other 2 books that you already have drafted. So,
no, I have empty folders on the hard drive.
Perfect. That's a starting point.
It is. Yeah, you got to start, and that's, you know, when I talk about it, it's in one of the appendices, the 7 steps, right? Mm-hmm. Step 1, start. Yeah. Take action. Do something, right?
Yeah.
So you got to start. You got to not procrastinate. I talk about the different procrastination. You got to quit looking for better.
Right.
You got to quit projecting perfectionism onto others.
Right.
Right. You have to embrace failure, learn from it. Think about when you were learning to walk. You've got
just
a fairly young kid.
Yeah, just the 4 kids.
Yeah, 4 kids each. We're populating the world between us.
You're welcome, America and the world.
But when a kid's trying to learn how to walk, do they just get up and take off tooling across the house? No, they fall down, they fail. And they fail over and over and over, but they get up and keep trying. Video gamers, you know, failed level 17, but what do? They go try level 17 again until they pass. But a perfectionist fails and says, I was no good. So you've got to embrace failure as a learning experience.
Continuing
instead
to start.
Of a condemnation of yourself, right?
Yeah, you talk about Edison, right? In that way.
Yeah, 10,000 attempts to invent the light bulb. Just like if Edison had given up at 7,843, we'd be sitting in the dark right now.
Yeah, or 1 if you'd just given up after the first one.
If he was a perfectionist, he would have given up 1. But yeah, so thank goodness he didn't. But yeah, so those 5. So get started, take action, don't procrastinate, don't chase better, don't project onto others, embrace failure, develop habits that support productive use instead of negative use of your tendencies. But the last one is the one that matters, right? Because you can do all those other things over and over, but if you can't give yourself a little grace, none of the rest of it will matter. You got to be able to forgive yourself,
right,
when it doesn't go the way you thought it would. You got to be able, and if you can't give yourself grace, how are you going to give it to anyone else?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. But you said it.
I stole it. Sorry.
Good job. Yeah. Well,
obviously we didn't rehearse because we're taking each other's lines.
No, it's good. Man, I just want to reiterate for those that are joining online, we do have this opportunity for prizes, and just remember there's 2 steps. Share the live stream on your Facebook, and then order a copy of the book on Amazon. Send your receipt to support@jeffreyacramer.com by midnight tonight.
Or thereabouts.
Yeah. We got the audiobook coming out, the Q&A session on September 7th.
Yeah, go to perfectionparadoxbook.com/bonus And everyone who signs up, I'm going to do a live Q&A on September 7th. You ask me anything, chit chat, whatever you want to do. Only people who are either watching the live stream or live in the audience know about that. So it's not going to be, you know, all kinds of people from all over. It's only going to be people who've been here and been involved.
Awesome. Well, I guess I'd like to say thank you to everybody that's here. We have an opportunity to continue to talk. If you have any closing thoughts,
I don't know.
I'm going to give you an opportunity to thank folks. I just want to,
Okay.
you know, personally, I want to thank you for the opportunity to host this for you and honor you and just kind of moderate, I guess, a small part of this event. And our special guest Phil Van Hooser for joining us earlier. That was a special treat for everybody. For the specialist, the most special guest, Linda, your mom, for coming up and
hey, did someone hide the knife from the cake cutting? Because I don't want her to get her hands on it.
Which was really neat to kind of peer in through her eyes, your book as well. And I guess I'll give you the stage if there's anything else that Jeff, you want to share with those here or those online.
Just to say one, thank you for joining us wherever you're watching from. I truly appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever it is for you. I appreciate that. Perfection Paradox. Yeah. Thank my family very much for, one, putting up with me for 55 years before I figured this out, and for a few more years since I figured it out, supporting me as I worked through it.
And every year moving forward.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And to my wife and a couple of my daughters who are here in the room helping out today. Yes, I put them to work. I'm sorry. They're helping out, and to my other two daughters who couldn't make it. Thanks to them for still choosing to be my family after all those years of suffering through this with me. And to those who are here who came locally, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and coming. I truly appreciate it. I've got family in here. I've got colleagues from the design and construction industry. I've got other folks who I've worked with over the years. Beta readers are in here. Like I said before, the beta readers made it way better than it started out. I laugh. I talk about the perfectionist writing a book about perfectionism. When I sent the manuscript to my editor for the first time, I said, "Here's the draft of the book. It should be pretty good. I've edited it 33 times already." She found a lot. Yeah. So thank you so much to Tina Marie Morlock and Diana James, my two editors. They were fantastic, and everyone involved. I mean, it's amazing when you do a book, all the people who are involved. Wei Wei can attest to this. Her book came out a little before mine. You've got editors, and you've got multiple editors, right? You got line editors and copy editors and content editors, and then you have your interior design team that do the layout of the book, and you've got the cover design folks, and then you've got the photographer that takes your headshot to put on the book. There's a huge number of people and a huge number of steps that go into it, and every one of them made the book just that much better.
Yeah, it takes a village.
So many thanks to all of them for their contributions, and to Carrie Oberbrunner. Man, I owe him so much. As guys, it's not good for us to say we love other guys. I love Carrie Oberbrunner.
I think a lot of people can say that about their coaches. Whether it's a life coach or a book coach or sports coach, right? Those are the good ones when you care about them like that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Very true. But I'm happy. I mean, for the folks that are online, if you want to post a question in the comments, we've got somebody who can read them. Or if there's anybody here who's got questions, I mean, it wasn't supposed to be a Q&A session, but hey, we're here. I'm game.
Does anybody have any questions for Jeff?
Or anybody want to tell really ugly stories about what I was like as a perfectionist? No, not my sister. Anyone but my sister.
We could bring your mom back.
Look at her. She wants to tell stories. I can see it in her face. So, all right. Well, we don't have to. I don't know if there are any online or not. I'm taking a peek. I don't see any. But if there aren't, we got a lot of food.
Yep.
We got an awesome cake with the cover of the book on it. It's so cool that they can do
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah,
love
don't
that.
eat it. It's
I know.
paper.
They said it was edible.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, no, it's edible.
That's
Yeah.
not, that's fake news.
Very cool. So we got
It's
a
real.
ton of food and drink. So please help yourself to some snacks. Book table in the back of the room. Anybody who's got a book that wants it signed, I would love to do that for you. Even my mom. I told you I would have given you one. You didn't have to buy it.
Kind of support Sunny Boy.
I know. So, but yeah, thank you all so much. I appreciate it. And to those of you online, thank you for tuning in.
Yeah.